The Stone Family's Charity Gala was Chicago's gilded middle finger, a glittering circus of old money and crocodile tears draped across their Gold Coast penthouse, crystal chandeliers threw rainbows on marble floors, Rolexes flashed under pulsing neon, and whispers of hotel deals and political backhands slithered like cigar smoke. Then, like a brick through their stained glass world, a Gulfstream G650 screamed overhead, its engines shredding the jazz-soaked night. The jet tore through the sky, silver and lethal, its curves catching Chicago's neon glow like it was flipping off the whole damn crowd. It slammed down on the rooftop helipad, rattling the building, scattering rose petals and cocktail straws in a bold-ass fuck you to their pristine vibes. Julia stepped out, a vision in a crimson dress that hugged every curve of her full figure, unapologetic against the tide of silk gowns and tailored suits. Her limp scar from a car crash at 10 that stole her cousin's life didn't slow her stride as her heels snapped on the tarmac. Her afro swayed under the city skyline, a crown of rebellion, and her dark eyes blazed with a fire that could burn this place to ash. 3 years ago, these people had spat on her, called her a nobody, a South Side girl too fat, too black, too broken for their golden boy, William Stone. Now she was a queen, and the jet behind her roared that she'd clawed her way up. No thanks to them. William stood at the crowd's edge, his bespoke suit screaming cash, his jaw tight, but his lips curling into a smirk that said he'd bet on her pulling this stunt. Vivian, his stepmother, gripped her diamond necklace, her face a mask of frozen venom. Lila, his ex, let out a sharp, "What in the actual hell?" that sliced through the gasps. Charles, his father, froze, his bourbon glass halfway to his lips, eyes narrowing like he was pricing her soul. Eric, a slick-suited stranger with a predator's grin, leaned in, whispering to Lila, his gaze locked on Julia like she was prey. Julia's pulse hammered, not from the stairs or the jet's fading growl, but from the weight of what she'd survived to stand here. Her mind spiraled back 3 years, to a penthouse dining room thick with lies and jasmine, to the moment she'd signed her freedom away for the one she loved. The stone penthouse was a monument to excess, all gold leaf mirrors and black walnut floors, with portraits of dead moguls sneering from the walls. Julia sat at the edge of their dining room, hands twisting in her lap, feeling like she'd wandered into a lion's den. Her worn jeans and faded tee were clean but screamed outsider. At 26, she was a fighter South Side bred, where you scrapped or sank, but tonight, she felt like she was drowning. Her curves overflowed the chair, her afro caught side eyes, and her limp, that damn limp, made every step a reminder of the crash that broke her confidence and took her cousin, Nia, at 10. The room buzzed with Stones and their lackeys, all fake smiles and sharp jabs. Vivian ruled like a mafia queen, her blonde hair pinned tight, her blue eyes cutting Julia like glass. Lila, in a dress that screamed "Stare at me," whispered to a crony, both snickering as they eyed Julia's hips. Charles, stern as a warden, sipped his bourbon, his silence a guillotine. William lounged at the table's head, chiseled jaw and cocky grin, like he owned the damn universe. His hazel eyes flicked to Julia, cold and irritated, like she was a deal gone sour. Eric hovered near Vivian, his suit too perfect, his smirk too hungry, watching Julia like a hawk circling a mouse. Julia wasn't here by choice. Mama's sweet spot, her mom's bakery, was bleeding out. The bank had called in the loan, and Stone Hotel's Charles's empire was ready to snatch it for chump change. Julia had fought tooth and nail to save it, the place where she'd learned to bake cornbread, where neighbors traded stories over sweet potato pie. Her mom, Mama Lena, was fading, her heart failing, hospital bills piling up like a sick joke. The Stones knew it, and they were tightening the noose. Vivian cleared her throat, her voice sweet as poison.
Julia, we've discussed your situation.
She paused, letting the word hang like a blade.
Mama's sweet spot is quaint,
but it's done. Charles's offer to buy it is generous. Julia's gut twisted. Generous? You're trying to steal it blind. Lila snorted, tossing her hair. Steal, honey. We're sparing you that dump. It's one health code violation from the grave. Say that again. Julia snapped, her south side edge a razor. That dump fed my block when y'all wouldn't even drive through. Vivian raised a hand, silencing the room. Let's not get dramatic. There's a solution that benefits us all. Her eyes slid to William, who shifted, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. William needs a polished image after that. Media mess. You need money for your mother's condition. We propose a marriage. Julia's heart roared, her breath catching. You've got to be shitting me. Language, Vivian said, her smile tight as wire. It's a contract. Purely business. Marry William. We cover your mother's medical bills and clear the shop's debt. You play the dutiful wife for 3 years, then walk away with a modest payout. William leaned back, arms crossed, his voice a lazy drawl. Don't get your hopes up, sweetheart. I'm not exactly jazzed either. Julia's eyes burned, but she refused to break. You think I'd sell my soul for a bakery? It's not just the bakery, Charles said, his voice low and final. Your mother's treatments cost more than you'll ever scrape together. Without us, she's got 6 months. Tops. The words hit like a fist. Julia saw Mama Lena in that hospital bed, frail but humming Billie Holiday, still believing in her. Losing Mama's sweet spot would crush her spirit. Losing her would crush Julia. But marrying William, this smug bastard who probably spent more on his cufflinks than her mom's heart meds. Why me? Julia asked, her voice a whisper. Vivian's lips curled, cold and calculated. You're desperate, dear. And we need a diverse face to prove we're inclusive. You're perfect for now. Eric leaned in, his voice smooth as oil. Real, authentic. That limp, South Side trash with a sob story, perfect PR. Julia's fists clenched. Fuck you. Eric. Enough. Charles barked, slamming his glass down. Sign the contract. Julia, or walk away with nothing. The room spun. Julia looked at William, searching for a hint of humanity. He shrugged. Eyes ice. Your call. Charity case. The dining room turned into a battlefield as Vivian slid the contract across the walnut table, her manicured nails glinting under the chandelier's glow. The paper was thick, official, a chain inked in legalese. Julia's hands shook as she grabbed the pen, its weight like a stone. The room was silent, save for the faint clink of ice in Charles's glass and the soft wail of a trumpet drifting from a South Side jazz club below. The air was heavy with jasmine and power, choking her. William signed first, leaning close, his cologne amber and cedar hitting her like a storm. His sleeve grazed her arm, and his fingers brushed hers as he passed the pen. The touch was a jolt that burned, unwanted, sending heat through her. His skin was warm, his nails flawless, and for a split second, his hazel eyes locked on hers, sharp with something hunger, maybe, or just arrogance. Her pulse hammered, a rhythm she prayed he couldn't hear, and her cheeks flushed as she snatched the pen, cursing her body for betraying her. "Move it along," he drawled, leaning back with that infuriating smirk. "I've got a city to run." Julia's grip tightened, knuckles pale. The chandelier's light danced on the table, casting shadows that made the contract look like a trap. She thought of Mama Lena, her voice singing "My Man" in the kitchen, teaching Julia to roll dough. This wasn't about pride, it was about survival. She scratched her name. The pen scraped like a blade carving her future, binding her to a man who saw her as nothing. Vivian clapped. All fake delight. Marvelous. Welcome to the family. Julia. Lila smirked. Yeah. Welcome to the cheap seats. Julia didn't look up, shoving the pen back at William, their fingers brushing again. The heat lingered, a fire she hated feeling. "Don't get used to this," she muttered. "Just for him." The next week was hell. Julia moved into the stone penthouse, a prisoner in a palace of silk and steel. Her room was bigger than her South Side apartment, all velvet drapes and ebony. But it felt like a cell. Vivian dropped rules like a dictator: no street clothes, no loud music, no disrupting our aesthetic. Julia bit her tongue, but every jab from Lila about her curves, her hair, her limp cut deeper than she'd admit. "Ever try Ozempic?" Lila said one morning over breakfast, eyeing Julia's figure. "Might help with that." Julia stabbed her grits, forcing a grin. "Ever try shutting the hell up? Might help with your whole personality." Vivian sighed, sipping her chicory coffee. "Julia, we're helping you assimilate that afro. For instance, it's so unruly." Julia touched her hair, her one defiance. "It's not unruly. It's mine." William, slouched in his chair, scrolling his phone, muttered, "Let her be. Vivian, she's not your damn project." Julia's eyes snapped to him, startled. Was he defending her? Or just bored? He didn't look up, his face a mask, and it pissed her off. He was barely around always at boardrooms or jazz clubs, living his millionaire life. When he was home, he treated her like air. His charity case nickname, a blade he twisted without blinking. She hated how his presence set her nerves alight, how his swagger made her want things she shouldn't. Nights were the worst. Julia lay in her too-big bed, the penthouse's silence crushing her. She played Billie Holiday on her phone, volume low to dodge Vivian's wrath, and thought of Mama's sweet spot, of Mama Lena's smile. The hospital bills were paid, the shop safe. But at what cost? She'd traded her freedom for a family that saw her as garbage, a man who saw her as a burden. She pulled out a worn copy of Langston Hughes's poems, reading I, too under her breath, I, too, am America. The words steadied her, a reminder of her roots, her fire, one night, restless. She slipped into William's study, a dark cave of leather and shadows that smelled of whiskey and cedar. She wasn't snooping, just needed something to quiet her mind. On a desk, tucked under a pile of contracts, she found a crumpled sheet of music, a jazz composition titled For Amara. The notes were jagged, scrawled in William's hand, with a lyric about a brown-eyed girl who sang in the rain. Her breath caught. William, the smug asshole, wrote this for a girl who sounded black. Was there a heart under his arrogance? A story he buried? She didn't want to care, didn't want to see him as anything but her captor. But the music stuck with her, a crack in her walls, a question she couldn't shake. Julia stood on the rooftop, the jet's engines a low hum behind her, the Chicago skyline glittering like a dare. The stones whispered, their shock morphing into calculation. Eric stepped forward, his grin sharp. Bold move. Julia, he said, his voice dripping oil. But you're playing a dangerous game. William fucked me over once, a hotel deal I should have won. You think he's your savior? He'll ditch you like he ditched me. Julia's heart skipped, but she held her ground. I don't need a savior, Eric. And I sure as hell don't trust you. Vivian cut in, her smile fake as her pearls. Julia, what a theatrical entrance. Why are you here? Julia met her gaze, unflinching. To remind y'all what real grit looks like. Southside don't bow. A guest nearby muttered, Southside trash, loud enough to sting, but Julia's eyes burned, daring them to say it again. Lila's eyes narrowed, but William moved to Julia's side, his hand grazing her lower back, a touch that sent a jolt through her despite herself. She's here because she belongs, he said, his voice steady, and you owe her some damn respect. The crowd went quiet, the tension thick as tar. Julia's pulse roared, not from the jet or the glares, but from William's words. 3 years ago, he'd been her chain. Now, he was her shield or something more. Eric's smirk lingered, his words about William echoing. She wasn't sure who to trust. But one thing was clear, she wasn't the Julia who'd signed that contract. She was ready to rewrite the damn song. Yo, John Doe's bringing the heat. Julia's jet just flipped these bougie snobs, her fake marriage to William's sparking fire. If her Southside grits got you lit, slam subscribe, hit the bell, and drop a comment how'd you clap back at these rich assholes. Where you kicking it, let's roll. The Gold Coast ballroom was a gilded snare, all crystal chandeliers and velvet drapes, where wealth hung heavier than the sticky Chicago air. Julia stood by a towering window, gripping a champagne flute she hadn't touched, feeling like a stray dog in a wolf pack. The cream gown Vivian had forced on her pinched her curves, its deep slit bearing the scar from that damn car crash at 10, a jagged reminder of the night she lost her cousin Nia. Her afro was wrestled into a tight bun, another Vivian mandate, and every uneven step, her limp echoing on the polished oak, screamed she was out of place at 26. Julia was a scrapper, forged in Southside's fire, but tonight she felt like she was choking. The crowd was a swarm of Chicago's elite suits sharp as knives, gowns glinting like Lake Michigan at dusk. laughter cutting like shards. Julia caught their whispers, hotel buyouts, yacht parties, names tossed like poker chips. She was 6 weeks into this cursed contract marriage with William Stone, a deal she'd signed to save Mama's sweet spot and her mom's life. But the Stones' world was a battlefield, their shade a blade at her throat. Lila slinked over, her ruby dress catching the light like she was the damn star. Her dark waves bounced, her smirk sharper than her stilettos. "Julia, you're here," she said, eyeing the gown. "That's bold. Ever think about a corset might tame all that?" Julia's grip tightened on the flute, her south side edge flaring. "Ever think about zipping it might tame your whole fucking vibe?" Lila's eyes narrowed, but before she could fire back, a gray-haired guest in a tux leaned in, his voice low but biting. "Southside trash doesn't belong here," he muttered, loud enough for Julia to hear. Her pulse hammered, but she shot him a look that could melt steel, daring him to say it again. Vivian glided in, her emerald gown flowing like she owned the city. "Julia, dear," she said, her voice syrup over arsenic. "No need to be so coarse. We're molding you to fit. That hair, for instance, it's a bit savage." Julia's hand twitched toward her bun, her afro, her one rebellion. "It's not savage. It's me." Vivian's smile was a noose, for William's sake. "Try to polish yourself tonight. He's presenting you as his fiancé, and appearances matter." William. The name sent a jolt through her, a tangle of rage and something she refused to name. She'd barely seen him since signing that contract, glimpses of his tailored suits and cocky grin as he breezed through penthouses or jazz dives. His charity case jabs cut deeper than Lila's shade, yet his defense at the gala, his hand on her back, lingered like a burn. She hated how his hazel eyes made her heart race, how his Chicago drawl stirred a heat she didn't want. "Where's William at?" Julia asked, keeping her tone flat. "Working the room," Vivian said, waving a hand. "He'll find you. Don't shame him." The gala dragged on, a blur of fake laughs and clinking glasses. Julia stuck to the edges, dodging small talk, her limp more pronounced in the crowd's effortless strut. Then she saw Lila again, this time with Eric, the slick bastard from the gala. His suit screamed money, his grin too sharp, like a shark smelling blood. "Julia, good to see you." Lila purred, her voice dripping honey. "Eric's an old friend of William's. They've got history." Eric's eyes raked over Julia, her curves, her limp, her bun, his smile cold as ice. "Well, damn. You're the South Side girl who snagged Stone," he said, his tone mocking. "He fucked me over on a hotel deal years back, millions I should have had. You think he's your knight? He'll screw you over too." Julia's jaw clenched, Eric's words planting a seed of doubt, but she fired back. "I don't need knights, Eric, and I sure as hell don't trust your slimy ass." Lila gasped, but Eric laughed, a low, grating sound. Fiery. "William loves a challenge, but watch your back. South Side, you're in deep." Before Julia could snap, William appeared, his black tux carved to his frame, His hair tousled just right. His hazel eyes flicked to Julia, then slid to Lila, and the ease in his smile twisted Julia's gut like a blade. Lila, Eric, didn't expect you here, he said, pulling Lila into a hug that lingered too damn long. Looking sharp. Always for you. Share. Lila purred, her hand lingering on his arm. Julia's stomach churned, jealousy and self-loathing crashing like waves. She didn't want William not like that. Not with his smug bullshit, but the sight of them burned. A reminder of the world she'd never fit into. Lila. Eric. This is Julia, William said, his gesture half-assed, like she was an afterthought. My fiancée. The word was a lie, and Lila's raised eyebrow confirmed it. Fiancé shit. William. You move quick. Julia forced a smirk, her voice sharp as a switchblade. Yeah, he's a real romantic. Locked me down with a contract and a sneer. William's jaw twitched, but he didn't take the bait. Let's grab a drink, he said, steering Lila toward the bar, leaving Julia like she was last week's trash. Lila's laugh trailed after her. Don't take it personal, hun. William's got standards. Julia's cheeks flamed, but she channeled the hurt into resolve. She wasn't here for William's approval or their elitist crap. She was here for Mama Lena, for Mama's sweet spot, for the South Side block that raised her. Screw their shade. Grew theirs. Eric circled back, his cologne sharp and heavy, his smile slimy. You're out of your league. Julia, he said, leaning too close. William's playing you for PR, but I'd take you serious. A girl like you needs a man who knows how to handle all that. His eyes lingered on her curves, too bold, too long. Julia stepped back, her skin crawling. Handle. I'm not a damn toy. Keep your sleaze to yourself. He chuckled, raising his glass. Spicy. I'll be around. South Side. She turned away, heart pounding, and nearly bumped into a man watching from the sidelines. Dark-skinned, mid-30s, with a journalist's keen eyes and a grin that cut through the bullshit. Eric's a predator, he said, his voice warm but edged. I'm Malik. William's boy. Don't let that snake slither under your skin. Julia blinked. Throne. Thanks. He's a piece of work. Malik nodded, sipping his bourbon. He's a user. I've seen deals like yours trapped, playing a part. If you need a real one to talk to, I'm here. The offer was solid, but Julia wasn't ready to trust. Appreciate it. But I'm not staying long enough to need allies. Malik's smile was knowing. We'll see. Sis. Julia needed air. The ballroom was suffocating. All fake laughter and cloying perfume. She slipped onto the terrace. The Chicago skyline a dazzling maze below. The night air cool against her flushed skin. She ditched Vivian's gown for her own black, fitted, with a slit that bared her scar like a fuck you. Her afro was free again, catching the breeze, and she leaned against the railing, breathing deep. This wasn't her world. She belonged in South Side, slinging pies at Mama's sweet spot, not playing fiancé to a man who didn't give a damn. Footsteps broke the silence, and she turned to see William, his tux jacket off, a whiskey glass in hand. The city lights carved shadows across his jaw, making him look too good, too dangerous. "Hiding already," he said, his Chicago drawl low and teasing. "Night's just warming up." "Not hiding," she shot back. "Just done with the crap." He chuckled, stepping closer. The skyline's hum blending with the faint wail of a saxophone from a jazz club below. "Fair. Eric's a jackass. You okay?" Her heart skipped, caught off guard by his concern. "I've been dodging jackasses since I was 12. "I'm good. Bet you have," he said, leaning against the railing. Close enough she could smell his cologne amber and heat, like a summer storm. His arm brushed hers, a fire that flared, and she cursed her body for reacting. The saxophone was slow, sultry, and the city lights lit his eyes, hazel and piercing, like he could see through her armor. "You don't have to play their game," he said, his voice softer, almost real. "You're bigger than this shit." She turned, meeting his gaze, and for once, there was no smirk, just a flicker of something raw. "You don't know me, William. Don't pretend you care." He stepped closer, his breath warm against her cheek, his voice a whisper that coiled like smoke. "What if I'm starting to share?" His fingers grazed her wrist, a touch that burned, and her heart roared, loud enough to drown the music. The skyline painted his face, his eyes locked on hers, and the air was thick, electric, like a fuse about to blow. She should have pulled away, should have cussed him out, but her lips parted, her body leaning in, the heat between them a live wire. Then Eric's voice cut through, smug and cold. "Well, ain't this cozy?" Julia jerked back, cheeks blazing, as William straightened, jaw tight. "Get lost." "Eric," he growled. Eric laughed, sauntering off. But the moment was gone. Julia pushed past William, her voice shaky but sharp. "Don't play me, William. I'm not your damn pawn." She stormed back inside, his touch a ghost on her wrist, a fire she couldn't shake. Back in South Side, Julia threw herself into Mama's sweet spot, the smell of cornbread and molasses a lifeline. The bakery was hopping. Her Instagram posts her hustle pulling crowds for Mama Lena's recipes. Tasha, the 20-year-old server with a hacker's brain, helped edit a reel, her braids swinging as she grinned. "This is straight fire." "Julia, you're blowing up." Julia laughed, the sound freer than it had been in weeks. "Thanks, Tasha. You're the real MVP." William showed up, unexpected, offering to tweak the lighting on a video. "Not bad for a South Side grind," he said, his tone teasing but his eyes warm. "No charity case jab in sight." She raised an eyebrow. "Don't act surprised. Stone, I've been outshining you since day one." He grinned, and for a second, she saw the man who'd written that jazz for Amara. But Eric's words, "He'll screw you over too," and the contract's weight kept her guarded. Her phone pinged with a text from Malik Yo. "Julia, your Insta's killing it. Come speak at our Southside Jazz Workshop. We need your spice." Julia's chest lifted, a spark of hope. Southside, a chance to break free of this gilded cage, to find herself again. She typed a quick, "Hell yeah," her resolve hardening. She was done being the Stone's puppet. That night, she pulled out her worn copy of Langston Hughes, reading Dreams under her breath. Hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. The words grounded her, a reminder of her roots. Later, restless, she wandered south side and heard a piano, soulful and raw, spilling from a dive bar. She peeked in and saw William, his fingers dancing over the keys, his face unguarded, lost in a melody that screamed pain. The neon lights bathed him in blues and purples, his eyes closed, the notes heavy with loss. Her breath caught. This was the William who'd loved Amara, who hid a heart behind his swagger. Was there more to him than the penthouse and the lies Eric's warning echoed? But she slipped away before William saw her, her mind spinning. She didn't want to care. But damn it, she did. The South Side was Chicago's lifeblood, a raw symphony of soul that hit Julia like a slug of bourbon hot, bold and alive. The streets thrummed with grit, neon signs flickered over juke joints, food carts churned out the scent of fried catfish and cornbread, and the wail of a trumpet sliced through the humid air. Ella Fitzgerald's voice weaving like a prayer from open windows. Julia stepped off the CTA bus, her worn sneakers scraping the cracked pavement, her afro bouncing free after weeks of Vivian's civilized bullshit. Her limp, the jagged scar from that car crash at 10 that stole her cousin Nia, felt lighter under the South Side sun. For the first time since signing that cursed marriage contract with William Stone, she could breathe. No Gold Coast glitz, no Lila's venom, no William's hazel eyes screwing with her head. Just her, a weekend jazz workshop for black hustlers, and a shot at reclaiming the Julia she'd buried. Soul Rising, the community center, was a sanctuary. Its brick walls alive with murals of Howlin' Wolf and Mahalia Jackson. The air thick with the aroma of sweet potato pie and big dreams. Julia walked in, her denim jacket slung over one shoulder, and was tackled by Tasha, a 20-year-old with braids to her waist and a grin that could outshine the loop. Julia, my queen, Tasha squealed, yanking her into a hug. Your mama's sweet spot. Insta is straight up fire, sis. You're about to school these folks on South Side hustle. Julia laughed, the sound free and real, something she hadn't felt since the Stones' penthouse. Just keeping it 100, Tasha. You're the one hacking the game with those edits. Teamwork makes the dream work. Tasha winked, pulling her inside. Let's get you in the mix. The center was a buzzing hive of black ambition coders pitching apps, chefs slinging gumbo samples, poets spitting bars over coffee and pralines. Julia felt like she'd come home, Southside's fire kissing her roots. She spent the morning dropping wisdom on her Instagram grind, how she'd turned Mama's sweet spot from a debt-ridden dive into a neighborhood beacon. The crowd snapped and hollered, their energy feeding hers. And for a few hours, she wasn't William Stone's fake fiancée. She was Julia, the woman who didn't fold. But William wouldn't leave her alone. That jazz composition she'd found in his study, scrawled for a girl named Amara, kept gnawing at her. Then there was the way he'd played piano in that dive bar, those raw notes spilling like a confession. Was he more than the smug bastard who called her charity case Eric's words at the gala? He'll screw you over too, and his threat about a lost hotel deal echoed, planting doubts. She hated that she cared, hated how his touch on that terrace had set her ablaze. "Yo, you straight." Tasha nudged her during a break, passing a cup of sweet tea. "You look like you're caught in some deep-ass thoughts." Julia forced a grin, sipping the tea, just thinking about work. Tasha's eyebrow arched. Work. Huh? Or that fine-ass William Stone spill the tea. Girl. Julia snorted. "Ain't no tea, just a contract and a shit-ton of drama." Tasha cackled, but before she could press, the room hushed, heads turning toward the door. Julia followed their gaze, and her gut flipped. William Stone stood there, all lean muscle in a tailored blazer and jeans, his hazel eyes slicing through the crowd to lock on her. He looked like he'd stepped out of a Chicago myth, and the way he zeroed in on her made her heart roar in ways it had no damn right to. What the hell was he doing in South Side? William sauntered over, dodging stares, his smirk infuriatingly intact. "Didn't figure you for the South Side grind. Julia," he said, his Chicago drawl low and teasing. "Thought you'd be kneading dough in your little bakery." Julia crossed her arms, her red tank top shifting against her curves. "And I thought you'd be sipping Sazeracs with Lila, not crashing my scene." His lips twitched, but he didn't bite. "I'm here for business." Tasha's pitch for soul rising caught my eye. Figured I'd scope it out. Tasha, watching like she was ringside at a title fight, grinned wide. "William Stone. Huh. Julia didn't say you were this slick. You investing or just here to show off?" Julia shot her a look. "Don't hype him, Tasha. His ego's already a damn skyscraper." William chuckled, unfazed. "I'm serious." "Tasha, your center's got juice jobs, music, real shit. I'm in." Julia's eyes narrowed. Was this another Stone power play? Or was he legit Eric's warning about William's betrayal stung, and she wasn't buying his charm? Tasha, oblivious to the tension, clapped her hands. "Hell yeah, let's talk shop. Julia, you're down, right?" Julia hesitated, her instincts screaming to keep William at arm's length. But soul rising was her kind of dream, and Tasha's fire was infectious. "Fine," she said, voice clipped. "But don't think you're calling shots. Stone. Wouldn't dream of it." "Share," he said, his eyes glinting with something she couldn't pin amusement. Or maybe heat. The next few hours were a blur. Julia, William, and Tasha hunkered down in a corner of soul rising, laptops open, coffee cups piling up. Soul Rising was a vision to make Southside a hub for black creators' studios for rappers, coding camps, food markets linked to Mama's sweet spot. Julia tossed out ideas, poetry slams for kids, jazz open mics, pop-up pie stands. Tasha mapped out grants, her braids swinging as she typed. William, to Julia's surprise, wasn't just a rich boy with cash. He dissected investor networks, tax codes, and city permits with a sharpness that made her respect him, even if it pissed her off. His brain was a turn-on, and she hated herself for it. They broke for lunch at a soul food spot, all greasy tables and the smell of fried okra. Aretha Franklin's Respect thumped from a jukebox, and Julia grinned as William squinted at the menu like it was a riddle. "What's the matter, rich boy?" she teased, leaning back. "Can't handle some spice?" He smirked, loosening his tie. I can handle anything you throw. Julia. Her cheeks warmed, but she held his gaze. Bet, get the hot catfish plate. Extra hot sauce. Tasha laughed, tossing a napkin. Y'all need to cool it with the vibes. I'm trying to eat. William took the challenge, ordering the spiciest plate, one bite, and his face went red, sweat beading as he chugged sweet tea. Julia cackled, her laugh loud and free, the stone's weight melting away. William shot her a mock glare, coughing. You set me up. Julia. Nah, you set yourself up, she said, grinning. Big talk, no game. He leaned forward, voice low, eyes locked on hers. Keep talking. Julia, I'll show you game. Her pulse flared, the air crackling, but Tasha's groans snapped the tension. Jesus, get a room before I choke on my greens. By evening, the sky turned ugly, dark clouds rolling in like a warning. The workshop shut down early as thunder rumbled, and Julia and William got stuck at soul rising, Tasha bailing for her poetry crew. They ended up in a small office, the fluorescent lights flickering, rain hammering the windows like it wanted to break in. The air smelled of wet pavement and tension, the storm outside mirroring the one brewing between them. Julia perched on a desk, her red tank top riding up, legs swinging. William leaned against a wall, blazer off, sleeves rolled up, forearms flexing in a way that made her throat dry. The silence was heavy, broken only by the rain's relentless drum and the faint hum of a trumpet from a nearby bar. So, she said, cutting through it. You gonna tell me why you're really here, 'cause I ain't buying this investor bullshit. He looked at her, hazel eyes steady. No smirk. Maybe I wanted to see you shine. Julia, you're fucking unstoppable out here. She snorted, crossing her arms. Don't sweet-talk me. Stone, I'm not your type, too fat, too loud, too black for your Gold Coast clique. He stepped closer, voice rough. You don't know my world, Julia, or what I want. The lights flickered, plunging the room into shadow, and a thunderclap shook the walls. Julia's breath caught as William closed the gap, his hand brushing her knee. A fire that flared through her. Lightning flashed, painting his face in stark whites and blues, his eyes raw, starving, like he was seeing her for the first time. The rain roared, a wild beat, and his fingers trailed up her thigh. Slow, deliberate, bunching her jeans. Tell me to stop, he said, voice thick, his other hand finding her hip, pulling her closer. She felt the heat of him, the hard lines of his body against her softness, his shirt damp from the storm. She should have shoved him, cussed him out for daring to touch her. But her body betrayed her, leaning into him, lips parting as his face drew near. The storm drowned her doubts. And then his mouth crashed into hers, hot and desperate, like he'd been dying for her. She kissed him back, fierce, hands gripping his shirt, wet cotton clinging to his chest. His tongue teased hers, a low groan rumbling in his throat, and her nails dug into his shoulders, anchoring her in the chaos. Rain pounded the windows, matching her pulse, and his hands tightened on her hips, pressing her curves against him. A fit that felt too damn perfect. Lightning flashed again, and she saw the hunger in his eyes, mirrored by the heat pooling in her core. His lips slid to her jaw, her neck, leaving sparks, and she gasped, her body arching into his. The world was this, his breath, her heartbeat, the storm ripping everything else apart. But Eric's voice echoed. He'll screw you over, and Lila's email. The contract. The lies slammed into her. She shoved him back, chest heaving, lips swollen. "This ain't love," she said, voice cracking. "You don't want me, William. You want the thrill." His eyes darkened, jaw tight. "Julia, that's not, save it." She cut him off, sliding off the desk, her limp sharp in her rush. "I'm not your damn game." She grabbed her bag and bolted into the rain, cold soaking her instantly. But she didn't care. Her heart was a wreck, torn between desire and fear, and she couldn't trust him or herself. Back at her South Side apartment, Julia stood under the shower, hot water failing to erase the feel of William's lips, the way his hands had claimed her. She wrapped herself in a towel, afro dripping, and checked her phone. A text from Tasha Storms Wild. "You good workshop was fire. Back tomorrow." Julia typed, "Bet. I'm in." Then saw a voicemail from Mama Lena baby girl. "You're killing it at that workshop. Don't let those stones dim your shine. Love you." Her voice was a lifeline. But then a text from Tasha hit yo. That creep Eric was sniffing around the bakery again. Asked about you. Said, "Keep quiet. Bad vibes, watch your back." Julia's gut dropped, the kiss souring. She reread Tasha's message, her words tight with worry. Then her email pinged. No subject, from an unknown address. She opened it, and her blood froze William's mind. "Stay away, or Mama's sweet spot burns." Signed, Lila. Her hands shook, the storm raging outside. Was Lila behind this? Or was Eric pulling strings? His gala threat, "Watch your back." Southside felt like a promise now. The kiss, William's eyes, Lila's email, Tasha's warning, it all spun like a tornado, and Julia didn't know who to trust. But Southside had reignited her fire, her roots. Tomorrow, she'd dive back into soul rising, fight for her people, and unravel this threat. William could keep his piano and his secrets. She was done being played. She pulled out her Langston Hughes book, reading mother to son under her breath. "Life for me ain't been no crystal stair." The words steeled her, a vow to keep climbing. The conference room at Soul Rising was a South Side war zone, pulsing with the raw hunger of dreamers fighting for their shot. Julia stood at the front, her navy blazer sharp against her curves, her afro a defiant crown under the flickering fluorescence. Her limp didn't slow her as she paced, her voice slicing through the chatter like a jazz trumpet. Soul Rising was launching today, a Chicago-born beacon to lift Black creators with studios, tech hubs, and markets tied to Mama's sweet spot. The room crackled with investors, bloggers, and community heads, their eyes locked on Tasha's tablet. 35,000 beta users, 90% from underserved blocks, grants up 30%. Julia gripped the mic, her South Side edge a razor. "Soul Rising ain't just a place," she said, her voice steady. "It's a middle finger to every system that said we don't belong. This is our ground, and we're claiming it." The crowd roared, fists pumping, phones flashing to capture the moment. Julia's pulse hammered, pride surging, but her eyes darted to the back, where William Stone leaned against a wall, his tailored suit screaming wealth. his hazel eyes pinned on her like she was the only one alive. He'd shown up uninvited, claiming he was all in on soul rising. But Julia wasn't buying it. That kiss in the storm, his lips searing hers, still burned in her veins. But so did Lila's email, William's mine, and Eric's threat at the gala. He'll screw you over too. Was he here for her, or just playing savior? As the event wrapped, investors swarmed Julia and Tasha, tossing buzzwords like disruptive and equity. Julia was mid-pitch when Vivian swept in, her sapphire gown glinting like she owned the damn loop. "Julia." "Darling," Vivian said, her smile a venomous shard. What a scrappy little project. But pulling William into this, that's reckless. Julia's jaw clenched, but she kept her cool. "It's not reckless. Vivian, it's right. Maybe leave your penthouse and you'd get it." Vivian's eyes flashed, but William stepped in, his hand grazing Julia's elbow, a touch that sent a shiver through her despite her walls. "Vivian, enough," he said, his Chicago drawl firm. "Julia's outshining half this city. Show some damn respect." The air crackled, Vivian's smile tightening like a snare. "William, we need to discuss your priorities. Stone Hotels isn't a sandbox for your distractions." Julia yanked away, her heart roaring. William sticking up for her was new, but it didn't erase the doubts Lila's email. Eric's warning, that storm-soaked kiss. She caught a glimpse of Lila across the room, all sleek silver gown and perfect waves, laughing with Eric, his predatory grin fixed on Julia. The sight was a blade, a reminder of the world she'd never fit into. Trouble hit like a sledgehammer. Julia was back at Mama's sweet spot, the smell of cornbread and molasses grounding her. When Tasha called, her voice taut. "Julia, we're in deep shit. Someone's flooding X with lies, fake posts calling Soul Rising a scam, saying our grants are a front, investors are ghosting, and the net's a war zone." Julia's stomach dropped, her spatula frozen over a pie crust. "Who's behind it?" "Bet it's Eric," Tasha said. "He's got the cash and the grudge. Word is, he's buying up our rivals to bury us." Julia's blood ran cold. Eric, the sleaze who'd threatened her at the gala, wasn't just a creep, he was a destroyer. His "watch your back" and that fake email from Lila felt like a coordinated hit. "We're not folding," she told Tasha. "Get our crew on damage control. I'm dealing with Eric." She hung up, hands shaking, and stormed to the stone penthouse, sneakers pounding the marble floors. If William was serious about soul rising, he needed to step up or get the hell out. She found him in his office, a sleek lair of glass and dark wood, his shirt unbuttoned just enough to show a slice of chest that made her throat dry. He looked up, surprise flickering in his hazel eyes. "Julia, what's good Eric's gutting soul rising?" she said, pacing, voice sharp, fake posts, lies about our grants. He's buying our rivals to crush us. "You know him. What's his game?" William's jaw tightened, but his eyes slid away, a hesitation that cut her like glass. "He's a vulture," he said, standing, "always been. But he's tied to a big Stone Hotels deal, millions on the line. Julia, if I push him, it could sink everything." Her heart sank, the hurt raw and searing. "So that's it. You're picking your daddy's money over me, over what we're building. He stepped closer, voice rough. It's not that simple. Damn it. I'm juggling my family, the board, you. You don't know the pressure I'm under. She laughed, bitter, stepping into his space. Pressure. Try watching your mom die because you can't pay her bills. Try signing your life to people who call you trash. I thought you had a spine, William, but you're just another Gold Coast suit. His eyes flared, and he grabbed her shoulders, not hard, but enough to stop her. I'm not them. Julia, I came to Southside for you, backed your dream for what she cut him off, voice breaking, to play hero, to keep me quiet. Eric told me you fucked him over on a deal, and now he's coming for me. Lila's email said you're hers. You're still playing games. William. He froze, guilt flashing across his face. Lila's nothing. Eric's lying. Bullshit, she said, wrenching free, tears burning her eyes. I'm done being your side hustle. She stormed out, heart shattered. That kiss in the storm had felt like truth, but now it was just another stone lie. Eric's threats, Lila's email, William's hesitation, it was all a cage, and she needed to break free. The jazz club was a haven, all rough brick and dim lights, with Aretha Franklin's Chain of Fools curling from the speakers like a lifeline. Julia slipped in, her denim jacket loose over a black tee, her afro catching the neon glow. Malik was at a corner booth, his journalist's eyes sharp, a whiskey neat in hand. He looked like a man who'd fought his own wars, not just William's friend. You showed, Malik said, sliding a bourbon across the table. Figured you'd need this after that storm. Julia took a sip, the burn steadying her. You said you've got dirt on Eric. Spill it. Malik leaned in, voice low, edged. He's not just after Soul Rising. He's got a vendetta against William, lost a hotel deal 5 years back. Millions he was banking on. Tanking your center is his way of hitting William where it hurts. But it's darker. He crushed a black woman's startup. Nia Carter. Same way lies. Stolen tech. Drove her out. She didn't survive. Julia's throat tightened, the bourbon turning bitter. Didn't survive. Malik's eyes darkened. Overdose. Called it a tragedy. But Eric broke her. He's a killer. Julia. And you're next. The words landed like a punch. Julia thought of Mama Lena, frail but fighting, of Mama's sweet spot, of every black woman who'd risen only to be crushed. Eric wasn't just a threat. He was a butcher. And William, he was letting it happen, too caught in his family's web to fight. How do I stop him? Julia asked, voice steady despite the rage. Malik slid a USB drive across the table. Bank records, emails, proof he's been laundering through his firm. Leak it smart, scare him off. And William push him. If he's got balls, he'll show it. Julia pocketed the drive, her resolve hardening like steel. This wasn't just for Soul Rising. It was for Nia Carter, for Mama Lena, for herself. She thanked Malik and left. The Chicago skyline a glittering gauntlet. She'd go back to Southside, face Eric, and make William choose her or his empire. Julia was pacing her Southside apartment, the USB drive heavy in her pocket. when a knock rattled the door. She opened it to find William, hair mussed from the night's heat, black shirt clinging to his frame in a way that made her breath catch. The hallway's dim light shadowed his face, his hazel eyes searching hers, raw and urgent. "We gotta talk," he said, voice rough, like he'd sprinted across the city. She blocked the doorway, arms crossed. "You said it's complicated." "William, what's left?" He stepped closer. The air between them electric, his cologne amber and smoke mixing with the faint hum of a jazz club down the street. "I fucked up. Julia, I didn't mean to push you away. Eric's a problem, but I'm not bailing on you or Soul Rising." Her heart flared, but she held firm. "You're bailing if you don't fight him. He's killing our dream, coming for me. And you're scared of losing your family's cash. That ain't love." "William." He reached for her, hand grazing her cheek, and she froze, caught in the heat of his touch. The room's soft light made his eyes darker, hungrier, and his voice dropped to a murmur. "You're my ruin. Julia, I can't stop thinking about you, that kiss, the way you burn. The way—" Her breath hitched, the storm's memory flooding back his lips, his hands, the fire. His fingers slid to her neck, thumb brushing her pulse, and she felt the pull, a tide dragging her under. A radio played Ella Fitzgerald's Summertime, low and sultry, and the air was thick with need. His lips were inches from hers, breath warm, and she almost gave in, almost let his touch drown the pain. But Eric's threat, "Watch your back," and Lila's email stopped her cold. She pushed him back, hands trembling. "Talk is cheap," she said, voice firm. "You want me? Fight for me. For us. Until then, we're through." His face fell, but he nodded, jaw tight. "I'll prove it. Julia. I swear." He left, the door clicking shut, and Julia sank onto the couch. Heart a war zone. She loved him, God help her. She did, but love wasn't enough if he couldn't stand tall. Rummaging through her bag, she found a folded letter tucked in her Langston Hughes book in William's handwriting. She unfolded it, breath catching Julia. "I'm a coward. But I love you. I'm terrified I'll break you like I broke Amara. I can't lose you, but I don't know how to keep you." Her eyes burned, tears pricking. Was this real, or another stone trick? The letter was a chink in her armor, a question she couldn't answer. But Eric's threat, Lila's email, and Soul Rising's fight loomed larger. Julia gripped the USB drive, fire reigniting. She'd face the storm, with or without William Stone. And she'd read, "Still here tonight. I've been scarred and battered. My hopes the wind done scattered. But I'm still here." The words were her shield, her vow to endure. The Millennium Park stage was a blaze of light and rhythm, spotlights slicing through the Chicago dusk, the air heavy with the scent of grilled sausage and the wail of a saxophone tearing through a swelling crowd. Julia stood at the center, her black jeans and soul-rising hoodie a sharp rebuke to the glitz of Stone galas. Her afro caught the neon glow, her limp steady as she gripped the mic, her voice booming with Southside fire. "This ain't just a show," she said, eyes sweeping the sea of faces, barbers, poets, kids with big dreams, tourists snapping pics. This is us, rewriting our story. Soul Rising's got 50,000 users, folks buying homes, building empires, screaming. We're here, and we ain't going nowhere. The crowd erupted, fists raised, phones flashing to capture the moment. Julia's pulse roared, pride surging, but dread gnawed at her. Eric's lies were strangling Soul Rising fake ex-posts, scam accusations, investors bailing, his threats, first to Mama's sweet spot, then to her mom, Mama Lena. Back off, or Lena's next had her on edge. She'd poured her soul into this fight. But William Stone's hesitation in her apartment, choosing his family's millions over her, cut deeper than any threat. That letter, his raw, "I'm terrified I'll break you," and Eric's venom at the gala, "He'll screw you over," kept her guarded. Was William's love real? Or was she another Amara, doomed to shatter? As the event kicked off, Julia scanned the crowd, spotting Tasha weaving through, her braids swinging, face tight with worry. Julia signaled her over, voice low. "You good?" "Tasha." "What's up?" Tasha leaned in, hushed. "That bastard Eric's here." Julia. "Saw him by the sound booth, eyeing you like a hawk." Julia's grip on the mic tightened, her gut twisting. Eric wasn't just scheming online, he was in her city, South Side's shadow, hunting her people. "Stay close," she told Tasha. "We're shutting him down tonight." The jazz performance was a beast of its own, staged under the park's iconic cloud gate. The beans' silver curves mirroring the city's skyline. Julia walked out, head high, her black dress hugging her curves, the slit bearing her scar like a battle scar. Her afro was a crown, her limp a steady rhythm. She wasn't William's fiancée tonight. She was Julia, ready to torch Eric's lies. Tasha flanked her, rocking a red jumpsuit, eyes scanning the crowd. "This place is buzzing, but I'm getting bad vibes. You sure about calling Eric out here?" "Damn sure," Julia said, voice steel. "He wants to play on my turf. He's getting burned." Malik slipped through the crowd, his journalist's edge cutting through the chaos. He handed Julia a slim folder. "Hot dirt," he whispered. "Eric's offshore accounts, emails, proof he's been laundering through his firm. Drop it tonight, and he's done." Julia pocketed it. Resolve ironclad. "Thanks, Malik. You're a real one." "Crush his ass," Malik said, grin sharp, vanishing into the crowd. The event roared to life. Charles Stone at the podium, his voice thundering as he hyped bids for art and jazz scholarships nobody needed. Julia waited, nerves buzzing, until Eric took the stage, announcing a generous donation from his firm. The crowd clapped like he was a saint. But Julia saw the predator in his smirk, the same one that had leered at her at the gala, promising revenge for William's betrayal. She stood, voice cutting through the applause like a blade. "Yo, Eric, before you play hero, how about you explain why you're shitting on Soul Rising with your fake-ass lies?" The park froze, glasses clinking, gasps rippling. Eric's smile stiffened, eyes narrowing. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Julia said, stepping forward. Limp steady, voice pure fire. "You're spreading bullshit scam posts, fake grant claims. We've got 50,000 users proving you're a liar. Folks feeding their kids, building futures. And what about Nia Carter? You tanked her startup, stole her tech, and she didn't make it. Her blood's on your hands. The crowd buzzed. Phones out. Recording. Vivian's face was a mask of fury. Lila's jaw dropped, and Charles gripped the podium, eyes flicking to Julia with a spark respect. Maybe. A white investor nearby muttered, "Ghetto princess," loud enough to sting, but Julia's eyes burned, daring him to say it again. Eric's face paled, but he forced a laugh. Julia, was it cute hustle? But don't get dramatic. Nobody cares about your sob story or that limp. You're out of your depth. The jab hit, her scar searing under the dress. But Julia didn't flinch. Out of my depth, I'm drowning you. How about those offshore accounts? Eric, or the tech you stole from Nia? I've got files, and the feds are gonna feast. Before Eric could snap back, William was on his feet, voice a thunderclap that shook the park. She's not alone. Eric, you fuck with Soul Rising, you fuck with me. I'm done with your games. Julia's breath caught, heart hammering. William strode to her side, his presence a shield, his hand brushing hers, a jolt that burned through her. The crowd was electric, cameras flashing, but all she saw was him, jaw set, eyes blazing, no trace of the smug millionaire. Vivian surged forward, voice shrill. William, this is outrageous. It's way past due. He cut her off. Tone ice. Julia's worth more than this whole damn city, and I'm not letting you or Eric drag her down. Charles's face was stone, but his eyes held something new pride. Maybe. Lila leaned forward, eyes glinting with intrigue. Eric, cornered, sneered. You're tossing your empire for her. William, she's nothing. My world's with her, William said, voice low, final, and Julia's ground shifted. Was this real or another Stone play? Her heart begged to believe, but her head screamed caution. The night spiraled into chaos, crowd buzzing, reporters scrambling. Julia slipped backstage, needing air, dress sticking to her skin from the heat of the moment. Tasha caught up, grin wide. Girl, you just lit Chicago up, Eric's done, and William Mann's got it bad for you. Julia shook her head, voice shaky. I don't know. Tasha, I want to trust him, but... Before Tasha could reply, Vivian appeared, face a storm of rage and desperation. Julia, you've gone too far, she hissed. You're ruining us. William's throwing it all away for you. He loved Amara, a black girl like you, until she cracked under our world's weight. The words were a knife, slashing Julia's resolve. Lila's email, William's hesitation, Vivian's venom, it all crashed together, fueling her doubts. If he loved her, why's he fighting for me? She shot back. Voice wavering. Vivian's smile was cruel. He's lost. Dear. But he'll come to his senses. You're a fling. William appeared. Tux jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd waged war. Vivian. Stop, he said, voice hard. Julia's not a fling. She's my everything. Julia's heart lurched, but Vivian's words clung like tar. Before she could speak, Charles stepped in, his stern face softer than ever. "Vivian, enough," he said, voice low. "William's right. I was wrong about Julia about a lot. I loved a black woman once, and my family tore us apart. I won't let my son lose her." Vivian's eyes widened, but she stormed off, heels clicking. Charles turned to Julia, voice gruff. "You've got guts. Kid, don't let her snuff it out." Julia nodded, stunned, mind reeling. William reached for her, hand cupping her cheek, backstage lights casting a red glow across his face. "Julia, I'm sorry," he said, voice rough. "I'm done with them. With Eric. I'm yours." Her breath hitched, his touch igniting her. Thumb brushing her lips, sending heat through her core. The faint jazz from the park swirled around them, sultry and low, and his other hand found her waist, fingers pressing into her curves. She felt his pulse, racing under her touch, and her body leaned in, craving him despite the doubts. His lips grazed her jaw, a fire that flared, and she gasped, gripping his shirt, fabric taut, nails grazing his skin. "You're my heartbeat," he whispered, breath hot against her ear, and she wanted to melt, to believe. But Vivian's words, "He loved Amara," and that letter's fear stopped her. She pulled back, hands trembling. "I need more than promises." "William," she said, voice firm, "prove you're all in, or we're done." His face fell, but he nodded, eyes fierce. "I will. I'm not losing you." Julia left with Tasha, heart a battlefield. The next morning, at Mama's sweet spot, the smell of cornbread and molasses a lifeline. Her phone pinged, a news alert. Stone Hotels had severed ties with Eric's firm, William's name front and center. His statement blunt, "We don't back liars." The move risked millions, maybe his CEO seat, and Julia's chest tightened pride. Fear, hope tangled. But Vivian's revelation and her doubts held her back. She'd bared her soul in that apartment, and William's hesitation still stung. She needed him to choose her fully, no shadows of Lila or Amara. Her phone buzzed a text from Tasha, Southside's hot. "Get here. Soul Rising needs you." Julia grabbed a napkin, hand shaky, and wrote William, "I love you, but I gotta love me first. If you're all in, find me in Southside. If not, let me go." She left it with Tasha to deliver, packed her bag, the scent of pie clinging to her. The fight wasn't over, but Southside was her home, her strength. She pulled out her Langston Hughes, reading The Negro Speaks of Rivers. "My soul has grown deep like the rivers." The words were her anchor, her vow to rise. Tasha burst in, face pale, holding a laptop. "Julia." I cracked Eric's email server. That Lila email, fake Eric sent it. Looping Lila to fuck with you. Julia's breath caught. Mind reeling. Tasha's find was a bombshell, unraveling Lila's shadow. But Eric's threat to Mama's sweet spot loomed larger. He was closing in, and William's stand might not be enough to stop him. The Southside Jazz Festival was a living heartbeat, a riot of color and sound that turned the empty lot into a temple of soul. Fairy lights twisted through gnarled oaks, casting a golden haze, the air thick with the scent of fried catfish and the wail of a trumpet carving through the night. Julia stood at the center, her orange dress flowing over her curves, the slit flashing her scar like a badge of survival. Her afro caught the neon shimmer, her limp steady as she mentored a crew of teens on pitching their poetry slams through Soul Rising's app. At 26, she was a force, her Southside roots anchoring her against the storm of the past month. Eric's lies had nearly killed Soul Rising fake X posts. Investor panic, but Julia, Tasha, and Malik had struck back, leaking his dirty deals to the feds. The SEC had him cornered now, too busy dodging cuffs to strike again. The app was soaring, hitting 80,000 users, with stories flooding in a single mom opening a salon, a coder launching a startup. Julia's heart swelled, but a piece of it still ached for William Stone. Her note to him, "I love you. But I gotta love me first," had been a gauntlet, a demand for him to choose her fully or walk away. His silence since the Millennium Park showdown, where he'd stood up to Eric and his family, was a wound she buried under her hustle. That letter, his broken "I'm terrified I'll break you," and Tasha's bombshell proving Eric faked Lila's email kept swirling in her mind. Was William's love real? Or was she another Amara, doomed to crack under the stone world? She shook her head, focusing on the teens. She'd built Soul Rising without him, without the stones. She was enough. Tasha strutted over, gold hoops glinting, grins splitting her face. "Julia, this place is fucking electric. Half of Southside's out here, building dreams. You're a damn legend." Julia smiled, warmth spreading. "Couldn't do it without you. Tasha, you're the fire keeping this lit." "Teamwork. Baby," Tasha said, bumping her shoulder. "But real talk, any word from William Mann's been ghost since he blew up that deal with Eric?" Julia's smile faltered, throat tight. "Nah, probably back to his Gold Coast penthouse." Tasha's eyes softened, but she didn't push. "Heads up, we got a big donor swinging through tonight. Wants to vibe with Soul Rising. Could be huge." Julia nodded, mind drifting to William, his hands in that storm, his voice at the park, the way he'd looked at her like she was his world. She shoved it down, turning back to her group. Her community needed her, and that was bigger than any man. As night fell, the lot transformed into a stage for a jazz festival Tasha had hyped as a love letter to Southside. The band tuned up, bass lines shaking the ground, and Julia mingled, her orange dress catching the light, her laughter blending with neighbors, artists, and kids chasing glow sticks. The energy was raw, like Chicago itself was singing. Tasha grabbed the mic, voice thundering. "Y'all ready to turn this shit up? We got a surprise tonight that's gonna blow your damn minds." The crowd hooted, and Julia clapped, figuring Tasha had nabbed a local jazz legend. But when the stage lights flared, William Stone stepped out. No suit, just a black tee and jeans, his hazel eyes cutting through the crowd to find her. Her breath caught, heart roaring like a drum. He looked stripped bare, no trace of the smug millionaire she'd met 3 years ago. "Ladies and gentlemen," William said, his Chicago drawl steady but laced with nerves. "I'm William Stone, and I'm here for Julia." The crowd went wild, cheers and whistles shaking the lot. Julia froze, hands clenching her dress, as William continued. "This woman built Soul Rising, a future for people like me who didn't know what real strength was. She's the soul of Southside, and I'm here to honor her. Tasha leaned in, whispering. Told you it was big, sis. Julia shot her a look. You set this up. Just watch. Tasha grinned, eyes sparkling. The band launched into a soulful cover of Etta James's At Last, and William's voice carried over the music. This festival's for Julia. For all of you. And I'm not just talking, I'm staying. I walked away from Stone hotels, from my family's money, because it's nothing without her. Julia's eyes widened, throat burning. He'd done what the crowd roared, but all she saw was William, face open, raw. No hint of the arrogance that had defined him. He stepped off the stage, moving through the crowd, eyes never leaving hers. The lights danced across his face, music a heartbeat, and her pulse raced like it was breaking free. He stopped in front of her. Close enough she could smell his cologne amber and warmth, like home. Julia, he said, voice low. Just for her. I fucked up. I hesitated. And I hurt you. But I'm all in now, no board. No empire. Just us. I love you. And I'm not letting you go. Her breath hitched, tears welling as the crowd faded to a hum. You gave it all up, she whispered, voice trembling. For me, for us, he said, hand cupping her cheek, thumb wiping a tear. You're my everything. Julia. Always will be. She didn't think, didn't doubt. She grabbed his shirt, yanked him down, and kissed him, fierce and hungry, like she'd been starving for him. The crowd exploded, cheers drowning the band. But Julia was lost in him, lips hot, tongue teasing hers, hands sliding to her hips, gripping her curves like a vow. The stage lights flashed gold and red, bathing them in a glow that felt like fate. Her scar, her limp, her fears, they melted in his touch, in the truth of his eyes. He pulled back, breathless, forehead pressed to hers. I'm yours, he whispered, voice rough, if you'll have me. She laughed, shaky but bright. Damn straight I will. The festival raged on, the band swinging into Billie Holiday's Lover Man, the crowd swaying under the stars. Julia and William slipped backstage, needing a moment from the chaos. The lot's noise softened, replaced by crickets and the faint thump of music. They stood in a shadowed alcove, fairy lights casting a warm glow, air heavy with possibility. William pulled her close, hands framing her face. I meant every word, he said, voice low. No more stones, no more lies, just you and me, building something real. She searched his eyes, seeing the man who'd written jazz for Amara, who'd played piano in the dark, who'd chosen her over everything. You're insane. You know that, ditching all that cash. He grinned, thumb tracing her jaw. Cash is cold. You're fire. Her heart swelled, and she leaned into him, lips brushing his. The kiss was slow, deep, a seal on their future. His hands slid down her back, fingers pressing into her curves, and she gasped, heat sparking her core. Her orange dress shifted, his hand finding her thigh, pausing at her scar. He broke the kiss,
lips moving to her ear, voice a whisper. This scars your strength. Julia. It's fucking beautiful. She shivered, nails grazing his neck, his words hitting deeper than his touch. He kissed her neck, soft, reverent. Lips warm against her skin, the scent of fresh-baked cornbread from the festival lingering. She felt whole, loved in a way she'd never imagined. The lights flickered, music a distant pulse, and she pulled him up, kissing him like it was forever, knowing it was just the start. They rejoined the crowd, hand in hand, the festival alive with dance and laughter. Mama Lena was there, a miracle in a sequined gown, heart stronger, singing a duet with Tasha that brought the house down. Charles Stone stood nearby, a shock, face softer than Julia had seen. He approached, voice gruff. I was wrong about you. Julia, about William. I lost a black woman I loved to my family's rules. I won't let my son lose you. Julia's breath caught, his confession heavy. What are you saying I'm sorry? He said, handing her a check. For Soul Rising. No strings, just a start toward right. She took it. The number 8 figures enough to take the center global. This doesn't erase the past, she said, voice firm. But it's a step. Charles nodded, stepping back, and William squeezed her hand, pride in his eyes. Vivian appeared, presence softer, eyes haunted. I loved a black jazz singer once, she said, voice low. My family broke us. I don't want that for you. Julia. Julia nodded, stunned. Vivian's peace offering a fragile thread. Tasha hopped on stage, mic blazing. Give it up for Julia, the queen who built this, and William, the man who knows a real one when he sees her. The crowd roared, and Julia pulled William into a dance, her limp a rhythm of its own, his hands steady on her hips. The stars burned bright. Southside soul theirs. Months later, Julia and William ran Soul Rising together, expanding to Detroit, Philly, Oakland. They hadn't tied the knot, not yet, but their bond was stronger than any ring build a future for dreamers, for their people, for each other. Julia stood in the lot, watching kids paint a mural of Nia Carter, her orange dress swapped for a Soul Rising hoodie. William wrapped his arms around her, lips brushing her neck. Love you, he murmured, voice warm. She leaned into him, smiling. Love you back. They'd faced the Stones, Eric, their demons, and come out whole. Love wasn't the jet or the stage. It was this quiet moments, shared fights, a community that thrived. Julia thought of Mama Lena, healthy now, of Nia Carter, whose legacy drove her, of Southside's heartbeat. She'd loved herself first, and that had changed everything. She pulled out her Langston Hughes, reading Dream Deferred silently. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it explode? Her dream hadn't deferred. It had erupted. Tasha rushed in, face pale, holding a USB drive. Julia. I dug deeper into Eric's server. He wasn't just a liar, he was tied to some shady-ass investors, maybe mafia. This could be big. Julia's eyes met William's. A new storm brewing. The fight wasn't over, but they'd face it together. Their love, a rhythm that wouldn't break. Yo, John Doe's bringing the heat. Julia and William lit up our hearts. Their love's pure jazz. Subscribe, ring the bell, and tell us, would you risk it all for love? Share with your squad. Let us know where you're kicking it, and let's keep the soul blazing.